What's going on, everyone? Welcome to TCG Empire's very first Pokemon Meta Monday. Now today we are going to talk about Gardevoir EX. This is the list that Tord used to get third place at the most recent international tournament. Gardevoir EX is a very strong card. It has an ability similar to the old Blastoise from Boundaries Cross, or even Emboar from Legendary Treasures, as you can attach as many psychic energy as you would like in a turn, but the only difference is that it has to come from the discard, and what gets attached takes 20 damage for every energy attached to it. But with Gardevoir, it's a very tanky card. It has 310 HP and it has an attack that does 190 damage, and it also recovers from all static conditions. So as far as this deck goes, your main attacker is actually going to be the Baby Gardevoir. Baby Gardevoir has an ability, Shining Arachna. It lets you once per turn look at the top 2 cards of your deck, and if it's an energy, you can attach it anywhere, and if it is a normal card that isn't an energy, it goes into your hand. So the potential with this lets you draw 2 cards guaranteed every turn, and if you draw an energy, you don't have to attach it. There's situations in which you wouldn't want to attach it, just because then you could use Radiant Greninja to actually see more cards. But on top of that, it has an ability that is overwhelmingly good for draw support, and it also has a good attack. The attack for 3 energy does 60 damage plus 30 for each psychic energy attached to it. So as you can see, this goes well with Gardevoir EX. Baby Gardevoir can at most attach 6 energy from the discard to itself, and that's already 240 damage. That doesn't include what you attach for turn. If you attach for turn, that's an extra 30, so that's 270. And so, or I believe it's 270. Am I doing my math right? 7 times 3, yeah, it's 270 damage. So it can take out a lot of things that aren't big hitters, or it can take out EXs. VMAXs, it has a little bit tougher time to deal with. You have to 2-shot, but that's where Zacian V comes in. Zacian V has the ability to attach up to 10 energy to itself before it's KO'd. And with running 11 energy in the deck, that means that you can get 1 big swing in, and with 10 energy, that allows you to hit 360 damage. Now, most decks don't run anything that has that high of HP, so you can really get away with attaching 9 energy and swinging, but Zacian and Gardevoir both have the same style attack where it's 60 plus 30 for each psychic energy, and so it works really well with Gardevoir's attack. Now, we're also running 4 Kirlia. 4 Kirlia is a must in this deck. You do run Rare Candy, but most of the time you want to run the Ralts Kirlia and then into Gardevoir, because Kirlia lets you see so many cards. I talk about it later in the video, but as far as Kirlia goes, if you have 4 Kirlia out and a Radiant Greninja, that means that you are seeing at least 10 cards in that turn with discarding from your hand and also discarding an energy. And when you discard an energy, it means that you are powering up Gardevoir EX's ability, and Kirlia has the ability to discard energy as well as Greninja. So you are seeing about 10 cards then, and if you go into the next turn, you can do the whole combo with seeing 10 cards and then evolve into 2 of the Gardevoir right here and actually draw 2 cards for each. So that's seeing a total of 14 cards without playing a supporter. And if you end up playing a supporter such as Research, then you're seeing a total of 21 cards, which is a third of your deck. So in one turn, you can see a third of your deck with only discarding 5 cards, one of which has to be an energy, but because you run 11, it's no problem at all. The other cards are just really workaround cards. They're just things that you should play. You have the mana feed just so that way if you play against Lost Box, your Ralts and Kirlias can't be hit on the bench by Greninja. You play Research just because it's a more aggressive engine that lets you discard the energy, and also if you're not able to see as many Kirlias as you'd like, it potentially lets you draw into Rare Candy Gardevoir. We play the Roxanne. Roxanne is just good for when your opponent is ahead on prizes. You can really shut them down. Penny is good. It lets you pick anything up and all cards attached to it and put it into your hand. So in reality, it lets you, put a Gardevoir back into your hand and then evolve a Kirlia into a Gardevoir again. Workers, just so that way you can get rid of things like Path to the Peak. And for Battle VIP Pass, that's just common. You want to flood the board as much as possible. The Level Ball Ultra Ball split is just because a majority of the deck is searchable by Level Ball, and like I said, you kind of want to evolve Kirlia into Ralts, and so it allows you to, or you want to evolve Ralts into Kirlia, and Level Ball lets you actually search for them. The rare candy, there's only two. There's not many times when you actually want a rare candy into Gardevoir EX, unless you absolutely feel like it's detrimental, or if you're possibly going for a donk. And then the Pal Pad. The Pal Pad is just so that way you can get resources back that you may need, such as Boss's Order or Serena, or just really anything. The Sky Seal Stone is one of the most important cards in the deck. You'll see in the matchup that I played against Miraidon. It came in very well when using Zacian for Regieleki VMAX. Collapse Stadium is just so that way if anything's on the bench that's injured and you want to get rid of it, you can. And Temple of Sinnoh is just for the matchups that are against decks that revolve around special energy. Most likely going to be Lugia. It forces them to swing with the Lugia rather than other attackers, which means Tyranitar isn't hitting you for weakness. And so yeah, that's the list. It's a really solid list. There's a couple changes that I would make, but we'll talk about it more for Tuesday's video. We're gonna do Tech Tuesday, talk about some techs, but we'll get into that tomorrow. For now, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Remember, if you do, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll get right into the matchups. Alright guys, what is going on? Here is a gameplay video showcasing the Gardevoir list that I just showed you. We are playing against my friend Zach, and I believe in this game he is actually playing, Miraidon. So in the Miraidon matchup, the best thing that we can go for is going for an aggressive turn, building up a board and establishing something. That way we can use Gardevoir or Zacian in order to kill a Miraidon for 2 prizes, and then the end game is to boss something up, and that being a Regieleki VMAX, and actually using Sky Seal Stone with Zacian in order to take the last 4 prizes. So this game should be relatively fast. It should be a 4 prize knockout, or sorry, a 2 Pokemon knockout, 2 prizes and 4 prizes. Now here I am, I'm just trying to figure out exactly how I want to go about my turn. I want to try and get Kirlias and Ralts established as soon as possible, and I could evolve into Gardevoir off the bat, but establishing draw power in order to see my deck and see everything is what I need. So here I'm just looking at what's prized. I noticed that a Kirlia is prized, a research, and I'm just going through, really just checking out everything that way. I know what to expect and I have an idea of what to get from the prizes. So there I am, accidentally clicking on rare candy, not meaning to. This new AI for live is a little bit unfortunate. Thankfully I'm playing against Zach, so I do have an error later on where I accidentally click Zacian's ability rather than activating the stone, and Zach realized that I had KO, so he just passed the turn back to me, but you'll see that. But here we are. We use the Ultra Ball to grab Radiant Greninja, and we also use a stone in order to, or a Fog Crystal in order to grab another Ralts. Now, the reason I went for the Greninja is because I want a way to draw, but I also want to be able to get energy into the discard. Now here, I did not mean to attach the energy to Radiant Greninja. Like I said, the UI is a little bit weird, and I'm still getting used to it, but it actually is beneficial because now if Greninja gets bossed up or anything like that, I can actually retreat it with the energy in the discard. So it's not the biggest thing in the world, but it definitely was something that really had me thinking about ways where I could benefit from it. So here we are. It uses the fantastic Miraidon ability in order to grab 2 electric type basics, and here we see Flaffy and the Regieleki. Now Regieleki VMAX is scary because it allows Gardevoir to be one-shot by Miraidon. If he gets 3 out, he is hitting exactly 310, and most of the time it's hard to come back from it, especially considering that they only need 3 energy, and that's relatively easy for them to get, especially with the energy acceleration that the deck has. So back to our turn, we're just figuring out exactly the best way to go about it. I'm thinking about if I should Mysterious Tail first or Curlia, and I'm actually going to Mysterious Tail just to see what items I can hit, just because I don't want to risk drawing into something that isn't really playable. There is benefits for doing the Curlia first, but I also wanted to see if maybe I could hit a VIP pass so I didn't have to discard other cards from my hand. And so this is where Gardevoir really starts to shine. As you can see, we're going to discard a card from hand that we're not going to need, and we're just going to go back and forth. Now, I use the worker first just for some more draw power, as I said. I'm looking for some cards that I may not need anymore in order to discard them, so we're going to use the Curlia's ability, and we're actually going to discard the research. The reason why is because I want the energy in hand just in case I need to retreat with Mew, or if I draw another Mew, I can actually establish a double Mew and search for more cards. Now, here, I'm really just looking for the Zacian, because at this point I can just attach and then search, and he needs a lot in order to be able to kill the Zacian. He needs to get at least 3 energy on the Miraidon and have a boss and have a Regieleki VMAX. Sorry, he doesn't need the Regieleki VMAX, but in order to establish board dominance, it's probably the best thing for him to do. So as you can see, the Miraidon's ability is once per turn, and so he floods his board again. Now this is where he floods his board with 3 potential Regieleki VMAXs, and with playing the Sky Seal Stone, that's 4 prizes on the board for no matter which one I KO. So relatively now, all I need to do is KO a VMAX, and I can easily finish this game. It's a lot easier for my Zacian or Gardevoir to swing on his Miraidons, and the swing on the Raikou. It doesn't take as much as it does for me to commit to KOing the VMAX. So the VMAX is the last thing I'm going to worry about, because I have to commit so much to it that I'm going to put myself probably at about 10 HP left in order to go for it. So he does KO the Greninja, which does hurt because we don't have any more draw power, but thankfully, as I said, we had the energy on it, so thankfully that energy actually goes in the discard. But here we are, just progressing through our turns. We have 25 cards left in deck. There's a lot that we need to establish, and unfortunately I wasn't able to get 3 more Curlias, or 2 more Curlias with the third. But this is what I said about using Mew first. It just let me grab the VIP pass so I can actually discard it with Curlia, rather than risk drawing into it and just having an unfortunate card in my hand that I can't really discard unless I have other Curlias. So here we are, we're using Refinement. I have the Ultra Ball Rare Candy, so I know that no matter what, I'm guaranteed to at least get the Gardevoir EX out. And the Gardevoir EX right now is actually going to be extremely crucial, especially if we can double Rare Candy into both Gardevoirs, because it's going to allow for us to work well. Now, the reason why I choose to Rare Candy here instead of evolving the Curlia is because that Curlia can actually evolve into the other Gardevoir in the deck. So I'm actually looking for ways to manipulate the board that I have in order to set myself up for the future turns. Right now I only really have 1 attacker, but with not as much draw power and also not having really anything in my hand for draw power for the rest of the turn, it was easier to justify Rare Candying into the Gardevoir in order to allow myself to have the Curlia for next turn. That way, if I do draw the Gardevoir, I can use the ability from Curlia to draw 2 and then evolve into Gardevoir and use its ability again in order to look at 2 more cards, which in turn lets me look at 4 cards. So this is where we're going right here. We're actually in the knockout range for knocking out the Raikou, which means that we're about to get 2 prizes, and we do have the seal in hand as well as boss. So as long as we have the energy in the discard and also have the items in hand, and our Gardevoir doesn't get KO'd, we're in a really good spot. So here I am, I'm going to discard the VIP pass in Roxanne. The reason why I kept the Miriam was just in case he decided to KO the Gardevoir, we could actually get it back with Miriam and see if we could draw into it. Just because I realized that one of my Gardevoirs was prized, and it just kind of made the math a little bit harder on what to prioritize. But now he brings up the Regieleki VMAX. The Regieleki VMAX has free retreat, and he's going to be able to switch into anything. But looking at his board state, he has to have an energy, attach return, as well as Flaffy, and also hit the electric max elixir, as I call it, in order to swing. So I don't see a way in which he has all of that, plus also a boss and 3 Regieleki VMAX in order to KO the Gardevoir. So he's actually going to power up Raikou here, and he's going to swing for enough to KO, but as we saw in the hand, and we also know in deck, we have a Zacian in the deck still, and we also have enough energy in the discard, plus boss, plus stone, in order to take the last 4 prizes. So here I am, I'm just thinking what to promote. I'm just going to search through the deck a little bit more. We actually do top deck the Zacian, so it doesn't really matter. And I look at the energies. We have 8 energy. I need to try and get a 9th in there, because with 8, we are only hitting for 300 damage. So we need at least 1 more energy in order to KO the Regieleki VMAX. So here I am, I'm just looking through the deck. We're going to look through a lot of cards this turn because we're going to double Curlia, and if we evolve into a Gardevoir, it looks at extra cards. So it's really just something that we can burn the cards in our hand, and we're just looking for that last energy, really. So here we are. Unfortunately, we haven't hit the energy. The deck does play 10, so we have at least 2 left, but we're just here looking, trying to see, and here we grab the Gardevoir just to look at 2 more cards. We still do have the Curlia as well, so we're going to just use Shining Aurora, and we do hit the energy, so we can just attach it to Mew, retreat into the Zacian, Stone, and then Boss in order to get the KO for this game. And I'm just here looking at extra cards just to really see if there's anything else. But as we see, we do get the 9 energy on Zacian, which does leave us with 40 HP left. I wish the UI was a little bit easier to use. The UI does have some improvements that it needs to do. I wish you could just put all the energy at once and actually put a lump sum of damage. It would make things a lot easier and a lot less time consuming like it is now. So we do have exactly 9 energy, and we are going to be able to KO the Regieleki VMAX for the last 4 prizes, and that's actually what makes the stone so good, is that it allows you to only have to worry about KOing 2 Pokemon rather than having to KO 3 basic Vs or EXs. So this is where I talk about accidentally use Roar of the Sword instead of clicking Star Order. I meant to scroll down, but I'm not 100% used to the AI yet. I played a lot of PTCGO, and the UI is a little bit different. So here I'm like, oh, I accidentally clicked it. Would you mind just passing? Just clearly I was going to go for the game, so he just draws and passes, and now I can activate the stone, making sure to scroll down this time, and Zacian can actually swing for 330 damage, taking the last 4 prizes. So Gardevoir is a very strong deck in terms of it takes a little bit to set up, but in terms of setting up, you see so many cards, and it also lets you just go into a lot of things. So we won that match, and let's get into the next one where it's a Gardevoir mirror match. Alright guys, so this is the second game with the Gardevoir deck. We are playing against Zach again, and we are going for the turn 1 setup, trying to get Ralts down. We are playing the Gardevoir mirror match, and the Gardevoir mirror match really comes down to who can have a better board state, but also it really just depends on who can get more energy in the discard and how things actually go. The prize trade is a little bit awkward just because if they swing with Gardevoir, it's only worth 1 prize, and if you swing with Zacian, it's worth 2. But overall, it comes down to being able to shut them off of their Gardevoir EX in order for them to not be able to set up as consistently. So here we're going to go first. We do start Zacian, which isn't bad, but we do have 2 battle VIP pass. Now starting with Zacian means that we're going to guarantee a swing next turn, especially with the energy that we drew, the 2 energy. We do open 2 battle VIP pass, so here we can just flood the board with Ralts. We're going to get 4 Ralts down and the Greninja, and we're just going to work on drawing as many cards as we can throughout the turns. We need to see more cards faster, and Sky Seal Stone, I have a hard time saying that, is not beneficial in this matchup at all, so that card can just be dumped. And so here, as we can see, we have a pretty good board established. We don't have the greatest hand, but we do have level ball, so we can get a Kirlia next turn, and we also have the potential to swing next turn if we draw the energy. So here he has the exact same setup. It's one of the most ironic things, but at the same time with playing towards list, this is what's going to work. Now he does play the memory skip Ralts, and that can be crucial in hurting Zacian. But with having towards list, there's no way to retreat in this list. There's nothing to pick up except for Penny, but he's not going to want to waste his turn trying to catch up with playing a Penny and going for memory skip. It does set us back, but it also just means that we have the more established board with being able to draw so many cards, and leaving a Ralts in the active means that if we are able to switch and get our own Gardevoir, we can get rid of at least one of his potential draw powers or attackers. So here we see he does have the same exact setup. He does have 7 cards in hand, and he's just going to Roar of the Sword and have the exact same setup as us. But thankfully with us going first, it lets us have more draw potential faster and earlier on, so we could potentially have an energy and boss and at least KO one of the Ralts. But the best thing to go for is actually KOing one of these Zacians here. Because Zacian is such a big threat. It has more HP than Gardevoir, so it's going to live longer than a Gardevoir would. Gardevoir could be in range of being KO'd with a Kirlia, for instance, or a Mew, with having to attach enough energy to swing. So 6 energy would be 210, so it needs 7 on Gardevoir in order to KO a Zacian, and Gardevoir only has 140 health, so it's not the best route for KOing a Zacian. Instead, he's going to want to power up his own Zacian to have the crackback. So here we are, we're just kind of going off. We are going to discard the Fog Crystal. Like I said, I want to keep at least 1 energy in hand, just so that way I can swing. Even if it's 150 damage, it means it's less energy I need to put on anything the following turn, which means that I can KO without having to put as much damage on myself. So here we're just putting the energy on, and we're just going to swing 150. Now this this Zacian only has 70 HP left, which means all it takes is 3 energy in order for it to be knocked out, which is only 60 damage. Now 60 damage is a lot when it comes to a Gardevoir, as it only has 80 left, but when it comes to things like Zacian, that means that you still have 140 health left, which means that you're not going to be KO'd by anything that is a small attacker or a baseline attacker if there needs to be one. When a Gardevoir, for instance, puts 120 on it, it means that it can be KO'd by Kirlia, which means you're only giving up 1 prize, but the prize trade really just depends on who goes first and how the turns go. So here, as we see, he does have the potential to KO us if he gets Gardevoir out with Rare Candy Gardevoir, and that would make things a little bit more frustrating in the sense, just because if our Zacian is down, he's at 4 prizes, we have to bring up a Gardevoir to swing. Our hand doesn't look too good. Thankfully we do have Kirlias out, so we can see at least 10 cards if we draw an energy next turn, 11 with the draw, and that's what makes Gardevoir so good, is the engine lets you see so many cards. Without playing a supporter next turn and having at least 4 cards to discard, 5 with an energy, we're seeing a total of 11 cards next turn without playing a supporter. Now, if we played a supporter like research, that means that we're seeing a total of 18 cards. That's almost a third of our deck we're seeing in one turn, just from having a board with 4 Kirlias and a Greninja out. So here he chooses to actually go for the memory skip. Now this is a fine play, but the only issue with this is all I need to do is draw a Gardevoir and another attacking Gardevoir, and I still have Ultra Balls in the deck, and it just means that I'm going to be able to KO anything. Now I actually choose to go for a big play here. After I do everything that I'm doing, as you can see, this is so many cards. I even forgot to mention the Gardevoir. If you draw 2 Gardevoirs, that means that you're seeing 22 cards with playing a research. So here I'm thinning the deck. There's cards that I don't need. I'm just trying to see everything, but I'm actually going to decide here to bring up the Zacian and swing at it with my own Gardevoir EX. Now the only reason why is because with Gardevoir EX, he has to commit 9 energy in order to swing, and there's no way that Gardevoir can be KO'd unless he swings at me with a Zacian. And assuming he only plays 1 or he hasn't seen the other, it's a lot easier for me to do this. So I decide to get the second Gardevoir EX out just so that way in case he does KO it, I still have a backup Gardevoir and I can still flood the board with as much energy as I need. There's no way that he can KO 2 Gardevoir EXs in the same turn. So here I'm just going to swing, and I made a misplay. I should have used the Serena. Oh, never mind. Correction, Serena can't bring up. Oh, sorry. I should have used the Serena on the Zacian because it guarantees being able to bring it up, but it also means that I have boss left in my hand. That way I can actually save the boss to bring up anything. There's no restriction for boss's orders like there is for Serena. So Serena would have been the best play there, and I have enough draw on my board that Serena's draw ability really isn't that relevant, especially with having 16 cards left in deck. So here he chooses to promote Ralt. Now he has to have a big turn in order to crack back. He needs to draw cards. He needs to bring out a Zacian in order to swing. And if he puts 7 energy on a Gardevoir, or 6, because 7 would KO it. If he puts 6 energy on it, 7 with attaching, he would only be able to hit, with 6 energy, he would only be able to hit 180 plus 60, which is 240. That would leave Gardevoir alive. So he has to get a Gardevoir out, attach 6 energy with the ability, and have an attach from hand. So he has to have 7 energy in total just to be able to KO the EX. And doing that means that I can come up with Kirlia, who isn't the biggest threat of an attacker, and actually just swing for 30 and KO it. And so now we're here. He's trying to thin through his deck. He only has 14 cards in hand. This is a towardsless mirror match, so he does play the Judge. And so with only 4 cards left in deck, it is kind of tough for him to figure out if he wants to draw or if he wants to discard things. And even if he plays Judge, that's 9 cards left in his deck after he gets the drawback, and so it kind of makes things a little bit more awkward, and that's without playing anything. So here, he does Rare Candy into the Gardevoir, and he does get the Gardevoir EX. Now, as I mentioned, he did need an energy attachment plus 6 energy in the discard, and thankfully with the Ralts on his board, he actually has the energy. So there is 7 energy in his discard. I'm just trying to see what's prized. His Miriam is gone, so if I did decide to go for the Gardevoir EX and KO it next turn, he would be in a position where he could come and swing back and KO the Zacian, but then I have a way to KO on the crackback and make it to where he's not able to really do much. Now, fortunately, his Palpat is prized, but with Miriam being gone the Gardevoir EX being gone and Zacian being gone, there's really not much that he can do. There's really only a certain amount of steam that he can do, and we're already 2 prizes ahead. Now here, he is going to get 2 prizes, but we're also going to KO one of his main attackers, and as we saw with the Miriam being there, and we don't know if his Palpad is prized or not, but assuming he doesn't have Palpad, that means that it's 1 less Gardevoir that he has to work with, which means that possibly he could have 2 attackers in terms of setting up another Gardevoir and a Zacian, but our board is more established, so it means that we're able to accelerate faster. So here he is going to attach the 7th energy. He could have used the ability, but he actually played it smart in terms of not using the ability, because then it would have meant that Kirlia could KO for 30 damage with only 20 health remaining on the Gardevoir. So attaching the extra energy means that I have to bring up an attacker in order to swing. So here he's just doing the math, making sure that he can KO. He is going to KO, and here I'm thinking about ways that I can have a good turn. So here he is going to KO, and now I'm just looking at my discard trying to figure out exactly what I want to do. Now here I choose to just bring up the Gardevoir just because with him only having 40 HP left, I can attach 3 energy or 2, and I can leave myself with 100 HP, which means I can do the same thing that he's doing, to where he has to bring up a Gardevoir to KO mine, or he has to swing with the EX or a Zacian. There's no way that Kirlia can actually KO me, so it brings up something that I actually want to deal with. And with the prize race, it's going to be tied if I KO this and he KOs me back. So here I'm just ultra balling. I think I'm just looking at what's left in deck. I'm trying to see if I have another Gardevoir. I believe I discarded my Miriam, and so when it comes to this, it's really just a matter of what can I do. Now I'm trying to look at his discard because I want to see if he's able to KO my Gardevoir EX next turn if he has another Gardevoir, but I'm also looking at what's prized on his side and what could possibly be prized and what's in his discard. So here, like I said, I'm just going to attach the energy to Gardevoir to where I only have 100 HP left, but I only need 3 energy. And here I'm actually going to start using Gardevoir's ability early on and attach to the board a little bit, just because it makes things a little bit easier for me to deal with in case he does KO the Gardevoir EX. If he brings up his own Gardevoir and KOs my EX, I only need 1 energy on Zacian in order to swing for 150 and KO his Gardevoir back. Now Gardevoir won't have that much health left, but it's the sense that I only need 1 energy commitment, and I know I still have at least 1 energy in the deck. So here he's going to promote Greninja. Not really sure what he wants to do as far as his turn, but looking at what he has, I can actually set up a knockout in order to KO his Gardevoir next turn if mine lives, especially with having the Palpad. Now the Palpad has to hit the boss. Like I said earlier, had I not gotten rid of the boss and instead I got rid of the Serena, it would have been a lot easier. But with being able to look at least 5 cards, 7 with an energy that I could possibly draw, it makes the chances about 50% of me hitting it. So, or I'm sorry, I'm looking at 6 cards. There's, if I Palpad, there's 13 left in the deck. That means I'm looking at half the cards. So it's roughly a 1 in 12, 1 in 13. I'm too tired to do math right now, but I'm going to say roughly like a 10% chance that I would hit the boss. And with boss, I'm able to bring up his Gardevoir EX, and knowing he has 2 cards left in deck, there's not much that he can really do, because he has to be able to shuffle and draw, but also he has to be able to work his way with being able to swing. So here he is going to bring up the Cresselia, which Cresselia can KO the Gardevoir, and it's an attacker that really isn't as relevant. But looking at Cresselia's attack, it does 110 damage. He can KO this and go to 3 prizes, but there's nothing on the following turn that he can KO for 110 that's worth 2 prizes. Unless I choose to power up Zacian, but in the sense that I do, he's still going to have at least 1 prize remaining after he takes this knockout. So here he's just trying to figure out exactly what he wants to do and how he wants this game to proceed. The only issue too is that he only has 1 established attacker in the sense of not attacking with Gardevoir EX, but on our board we have at least 3 if we include the Gardevoir EX. Now it's about to go to 2, but the Zacian means that we don't have to worry as much, and if we do Palpad and hit the boss, we can KO for 2 prizes, and anything that he decides to bring up, we can actually KO with the Gardevoir EX. So he has to evolve into an EX and also have a swing with a baby Gardevoir, and baby Gardevoir can be knocked out by Gardevoir EX. So all we really need to do is just take 2 prizes this turn. And I do draw the Miriam. Now Miriam is also good because if he chose to knock out my Gardevoir EX, I could get another Gardevoir EX back with Miriam. So here I'm going to shuffle back the boss's order. I was thinking about the judge, but I don't need it, and the boss's order is really just 1 card that I need to look at. And this is where I said I'm going to try and draw. Now I only have 2 cards to draw with refinement, which is unfortunate, but I do actually draw the boss's order. And here I just want to thin the deck a little more just in case for anything to happen. I have the cards in my hand, and next turn if he does KO something that's important, I can actually Miriam and have less cards in the deck when Miriam occurs in order to draw it. So here I'm just thinking, okay, what's the best way to approach this? So in case he does swing, I want to start powering up my board. Now that's where I accidentally misclick again, and I used the ability rather than attacking. I was just trying to see how much the damage, how much damage I was doing if I believe I was trying to just calculate some damage, and I accidentally clicked on it when just trying to read the card. But Zach's a nice guy, and you know, it kind of messed with the game a little bit, but it wasn't so bad to where anything went wrong. So here I'm gonna attach the 9 energy, and this does put me in range of being KO'd by Cresselia, but as I said, this lets me just swing with Gardevoir. Now also what I'm doing is I'm attaching an energy to Kirlia. The only reason I'm attaching energy to Kirlia is because if he decides to bring up the Kirlia and stall, everything has a 1 retreat cost now that isn't an attacker. So here I'm going to swing with the Zacian. I'm going to KO the Gardevoir, and it also puts him in a spot where things go wrong. Now here he's talking about how his next turn is kind of messed up now because he has to play judge rather than anything else. So I just say, okay, let me just Roxanne you, that way you still have cards in your deck. Now this does showcase the power of Gardevoir, but because of that it could have changed how the game was. But Zach is a nice guy, and you know, he realized what was prized and what wasn't, and so it kind of solidified the game towards the end. Now again, my apologies. I'm going to make sure that as the games go on I don't make this mistake anymore. But here Zach is just trying to figure out what he wants to do for the turn, and considering that I have the Gardevoir EX on the bench as well as the other Gardevoir in my hand, no matter what he chooses to do, I can get out of it. If he brings up the Kirlia, I can evolve and attach the energy. If he brings up the Greninja, I have the energy in order to retreat. And so when it comes down to it, there's not really much that he can do, and this game is technically over at this point. Now, thank you so much to Zach for helping me make these videos and playing the games against me and playing the decks that I need to test against. I'm going to link his channel. It's the best of 3. He hasn't uploaded yet, but he's going to. But he's a really great guy, And so when it comes down to it, I want you guys to just keep in mind that I'm human. I'm not going to play every deck perfectly, but it's a learning experience for everyone. So here I'm just going to use the ability and I'm just going to swing. I just want to draw through my deck, see if there's anything else that I could possibly need. But this game is pretty much over. So I want to thank you guys for watching today's video. The Gardevoir EX deck is very strong, and I can clearly see why Tor chose to play it and why he did what he did when it came to it. So thank you guys so much for watching in today's video. Remember, if you liked it, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Also, let me know some of the favorite decks that you're testing or what other decks you would want me to play. But the rest of the week, we are going to be focusing on Zoro for One Piece and Gardevoir for Pokemon, but we're going to be going through the system and figuring things out. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your night.